It's what exactly no one asked for. Another interview with Meghan Markle, and to no one's surprise, it is the exact same stories and sound bites and tidbits that she has said at least 3 other times. There is not one single new anecdote in this interview, if you can believe it. I have read it, skimmed over it very quickly, and I'm going to go through it with you today. But before we get into that, I would like to invite you to subscribe if you have not yet already. Click that hype button and the like button, but only if you want to. So, my first impressions, why are we enduring yet another Meghan Markle interview? She is one of the most disliked known figures. She has nothing new going on, and everything she's been doing is flopping and failing. This is a woman who, remember, is only famous because of who she married. Like, we only know who she is because of who she married. If she was still just like on her normal trajectory, she would just be, like a normal TV actress. We don't get these types of persistent, incessant interviews from TV actresses or actors. Like, it doesn't happen. You know why? Because they are not that level of celebrity. And so the Meg is only at the level of fame or known personness, infamy, because of who she married. Therefore, this interview and the things in it are as banal and boring and plain and repetitive as you would imagine, because she is not famously infamous on her own merit. Nay, it is just because of who she happened to marry. Name association only. Therefore, there is nothing good here in this interview. It's getting hard to review these because it's all the same stuff we've all heard before and there's nothing new. So then it becomes like, what are we all doing here? Well, Harpers Bazaar is trying to get a little publicity and they're doing the Meg a big favor. And the Meg is trying to drum up some additional attention as per usual, but especially because the trailer for her Netflix series just dropped and I have a separate video talking about it, but it is like at a 90% dislike ratio right now. Everybody's putting thumbs down on it. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to see it. And this interview being published at the exact same time, the same day as the Netflix trailer dropped, is not a coincidence. It is burying that trailer, which is weird because Netflix are the ones involved in that trailer. And the last stand for With Love Meghan, the last glimpse of it that we're going to have to endure with the holiday special. And so why would Netflix want it overshadowed by this interview? I don't know. I imagine they would assume that this interview would actually drive more attention to the Netflix trailer and this short little Christmas special that she's putting out, holiday special that she's putting out. I assume that they thought it would, like normal publicity. Like when an actor has a big movie coming out, you see them get more publicity, more magazine interviews or covers or photo shoots, like these types of things happen when a celebrity has a project coming up. But the Meg's paltry little holiday special on Netflix, after they've already canceled, broke ties with her, and they're not going to be helping her with As Ever going forward. They're not willing to put it in their brick and mortar stores. We're diving into greater detail on that bit of news in the separate video that should be up within the next day or two. So after all the failures and rejection from Netflix, you would think that they're trying to get a little publicity for the With Love Meghan thing, but because everything Meghan does is so boring and plain and nobody wants it and there's not really any appetite for more Meghan, both the interview and the trailer are not going to get good traction, and they're not going to help each other. And also, when a celebrity has a big movie coming out, the same cannot be said for the likes of Meg's silly little Christmas holiday special. It's not a big deal. You know what I mean? Like, it's not something people are excited about. It's not some big thing in her career. It's a flop. I mean, people have rejected it. Every single review of it is negative. So I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand why we have to endure more of these repetitive interviews, but here we are, repeating the same exact stuff that we have heard every other interview she has had this year. Literally everything is the same. I saw People magazine put out an article covering this article in Harper's Bazaar, which is just, this is the media these days. I'm going to write an article about someone else's article. But they say it's a rare insight. I'm sorry. What is People magazine's threshold for rare? Because mine is like when we get to hear from Catherine, Princess of Wales, or Prince William in an interview, it's rare because it doesn't happen very often, okay? Harry and Meghan do interviews constantly. It is not rare. And it's not rare for them to give insights into what they're doing at home because they're divulging that information constantly. It is constant. We do not go 1 week without a post, an interview, a podcast spot, an appearance, or a project announcement, or just a project from Meghan or Harry. Like, we don't. We don't go 1 week without something from them. Ergo, none of it is rare, which actually is a really bad thing for Harry and Meghan because, like I said, they're not celebrities who are famous for their talent or accomplishments. They're just famous by name association, which they trashed and rejected and, lied about all these things. So that whole thing is a big pile of hypocrisy on its own. But the fact that Harry and Meghan aren't famous for anything specific is exactly why they should keep some more mystery about them. Because all these not rare, rather consistent, regular spills of information and appearances and all this stuff, the getting attention constantly, is damaging their image overall because they're oversaturated and all of those things that we've talked about before. They contradict themselves, they set themselves up for failure, all that stuff. But also because then there is no mystery about them, so nobody's curious about them anymore, so nobody pays attention. I would bet this Harper's Bazaar magazine cover is one of their lowest selling covers of the year. Because people don't want to buy this magazine cover. They don't want to buy an interview with the Meg because it's the same exact interview we've heard before. And who even is the Meg? Who cares? Not that she has no value. Like, everybody has value. It's just not this type of thing. Like, there is no reason to interview the Meg. There just isn't. There's nothing new going on. She has no new projects. There's nothing exciting or inspiring to talk about. It's just the same stuff. And everything that she does talk about is not only regurgitated from previous interviews, but it's just regular, normal, average stuff. Like, I would never launch into stories about my basic, very normal childhood. I would just say it's a childhood like pretty much everybody else. Pretty normal upbringing. And that's what Meg had. So there's nothing newsworthy about this. There's nothing interesting here. Same with her normal day-to-day life. She is just a lady trying to sell runny jam. Okay, there's nothing interesting here, and it is not rare. Like, just contrast it to maybe like a director or an actor or a musician who's producing art that then you're interested in or that resonates with you or connects with you and people like it. It's popular. The actor is popular. People get curious about those people. They're curious about their childhood or curious about their past or how did they get to where they are? How did they get this success? Or how do they come up with these ideas for their wonderful songs or beautiful movies or, whatever it is. People want to know more about them and their life and their background, even if it is pretty normal stuff, because those people are making art that we then consume and connect with on some level, typically. Like, if it's popular, usually that's because people connect with it. It resonates with people. People like it. People think you're very talented, and then they might be curious. Like, hey, how did you find yourself here? And some people, like some celebrities, have fascinating backstories, quite frankly. Like Jim Carrey has a fascinating backstory, and his stands out because it's rather unique. Chris Pratt has a rather interesting backstory. Those are the types of people that were curious to hear more about their backstory, their origin story. The Megs, not so much. And it's not out of dislike or something weird like that. It's just like, why? She was just like a normal human being, not super successful actress or anything like that. She was Just, we know about her because she married somebody famous. That doesn't inherently make you more interesting. What is happening? Anyway, let's move on to some of these pictures because they are rather uncomfortable. I don't care for these photographs, really. These pictures of Meg. It says here that the story is by Caitlin Greenidge, who, you guys, this Caitlin lady is all up in Meghan's business. She is sickly sycophantic in this at certain parts, but she also points out specifically multiple times that someone announces the Duchess of Sussex before Meghan walks into a room multiple times while putting together this story. You guys, Meghan has somebody enter a room before her and say, Duchess of Sussex, and then the Meg walks through the door. This happens multiple times throughout this story, throughout this interview. And at one point, the writer even points out, even though I'm pretty sure we are the only two people in the room, somebody still announces the Meg is walking into the room. What is this? The insane level of ego to do that. I am baffled by it. Like, I knew the Meg was super narcissistic, super egotistical, super full of herself. That's all obvious, old news. But to go to that great of a length, that is so gross. It just is. Especially after how much she lied about and trashed the royal family and complained about everything all the time and is trying to sell herself as this really down-to-earth lady. To literally have someone announce Duchess of Sussex before you enter a room multiple times? I'm astonished. That is a whole new level of gross and narcissism and all of the things. The self-importanceness is just, it's nauseating at this point. But that was shocking. So that leads me to wonder, is this Caitlin lady just making the articles sound super obsessed with the Meg and impressed with the Meg for, job safety? Or is she trolling Meghan? Because pointing that out does not make Meghan look good. It makes Meghan look horrible. You know who we have never heard does that? The real royal family. Okay, that is crazy to me. Like at official engagements and stuff, of course they do. In the palace, of course they do. If there's like something like they're having a meeting, things like that, of course, sure, of course they would. But like just in normal day-to-day or showing up to schools or to play sports, to play volleyball on the beach, I am 100% sure nobody stood there in the sand and said, Prince William, before he came marching onto the sand to play volleyball with the people, okay? That is literally insane of Meghan. The delusion, like it just proves everyone right about Meg, that she really is that toxic of a weirdo to have that in this article. So maybe Caitlin is kind of revealing more than it seems at first. Read between the lines type of thing. Anyway, photographs are by Malik Bodian and styling is by Carlos Nazario. Nothing against Carlos Nazario, but I do not like how this was styled at all. So here we have the Meg in this like sort of, it looks like a dressing coat to me. I don't mind the piece for Meghan. It actually might give her some good balance if we could see her standing up in this, because a bit of a peplum top with a little bit of volume over the hips might be nice. But the makeup is so intentionally understated and the hair so intentionally understated and overly simple and soft that it feels manipulative. It feels too try hard. Here you can see they put white liner on this waterline on the lower line to try to make her eyes look a little bit bigger, because the Meg with no makeup on, her eyes look really, really small because they are naturally quite small for her face. But they tried to open them up a little bit, but this just looks out of place, especially the hair. Just kind of softly tucked back in a sort of just messy way, as if you were in your downtime at home, sort of, I think is what they're going for. Like, this is just natural Meghan. She doesn't try hard with her hair or anything. She's not a real try hard. She is a real try hard. Okay, you can't trick us with a photograph like this, especially because then this is a very fancy outfit, very expensive earrings, and it's posed perfectly, like, come on. This looks out of place. It looks incongruous. Again, it's the same issue with the hair where it just looks like she came just out freshly washed, did nothing to it. And I mean, like, that can work. The slightly undone sort of a thing can work sometimes. It's just that Meghan can't really quite pull it off. She's posing really hard here. And it comes across to try hard. Plus, with what we know of Meghan, of all her different eras, of trying to sell different versions of herself, it just feels like she's trying to push a certain narrative. She's trying to do this photo shoot that's just as glamorous, just as pretentious as all the rest, especially with somebody there whose job specifically is to announce your title before you walk in the room. Okay, the level of pretentiousness of that, it's coming through in these photographs, despite her trying to look like she's like, oh no, I'm just totally natural, totally just me, how I am, in these glamorous clothes, glamorous jewelry, and posing super hard. Like, it just doesn't work. It doesn't fit together. Something about these photographs feels so uncomfortable to me. This in the giant man shirt, messily rolled up. I mean, I guess the most we can say here is it's on brand for the Meg, okay? But even just this look here, it almost looks sinister to me. Do we have a smile yet? Have we had like a real smile yet? No smiling. Okay. And then we have this one, terrible. This huge trench coat, the black turtleneck, the layering and all of that. It's heavily styled. All the layering here and whatnot. You would think, okay, this could be good. But Meg just can't pull it off. It feels like she is acting. It feels like she is pretending to be this model, this high-powered situation here. It's just not working for me at all. And I don't like this outfit for this. It's messy. It's bulky. This huge trench coat is overwhelming. And it looks silly, quite frankly. This looks silly. Okay? The trench coat is obviously way too big. And Meg cannot pull off high-fashion stuff. She cannot pull off oversized stuff. It makes her look silly. Same critique with the hair there. This red one is probably the best of them just because it has color, but her eyelids look super weird here. You see how there's like a fold that looks like it's in a really weird place and it's like highlighted as compared to the rest of the makeup? It looks super duper strange. Like, I know that she has slightly hooded eyes, but this looks very weird. They should have smoothed it out or just done a different eye makeup look, because it almost looks like there's a line drawn right in the middle of her eyelid, but that is not the case. That's just a skin fold there. So they have shimmer drawing the eye to that, accentuating the fold. It looks very strange. It looks very, very strange. But nevertheless, the bright pop of color I think helps. This is probably the best picture of the bunch, even though she still looks weird. And then we have the chair photo, still same try hard, same like vacuous, empty expression on her face. She's just expressionless in all of these. She's doing the same face in every single photo. No smile, nothing behind the eyes. The eyes look really close together here on top of looking really small. And it's just this like boring stare. Is that what she thinks like high fashion is? It's just a stare. An expressionless stare. She was going to do the interview. She needed to include some more exciting information and talk about what she was actually doing, not just repeating the same stuff over and over again. But if she was going to do this photo shoot, she needed to inject some personality, because that's exactly why the Netflix series has failed, why nobody is watching it, why nobody wants any more podcasts from her, why everything isn't working, is because there's no personality shining through. It's all just so obsessed with looking the way that she thinks, and that just overshadows your personality shining through, because you're focused on something else. You have an agenda and you're acting, you're pretending, and it comes through. And so she should have focused on something that is really personality driven, not these types of just boring, expressionless poses and faces. as I was skimming through the article before sitting down to film, and we're going to go through it in a moment, but as I was skimming through, she spent a lot of time trying to talk about how she likes to play. And I mean, we've heard this from her before, but it was super annoying then, it's super annoying now. Oh, I just like to be able to play with this, play with that, play. Okay. Setting aside the weirdness of that wording, then why not make your photo shoot playful? And I'm not talking about this playful that she tried to do with the Variety one that was just unhinged. I'm talking about actual playfulness. Like, do something fun. Or like be with your kids or something. It just would make more sense. Like if I were strategizing with Meghan from a PR perspective. Like it is time to demonstrate more personality. Push a little life into your public image because it is so bland and boring and try hard and contrived and all of the things that it's just a total turnoff all the way around. And so she would have benefited greatly from something more playful and vibrant and fun, or even like because she did the stupid Nigeria trip, the stupid Colombia trip, she does those types of things. She could have like worn stuff from those trips and made her photo shoot really, really fun and playful in that way, or done like all California designers or something. Or even like California streetwear, stuff that was like smaller brands from California, something like that. If she wants to be this hometown hero type of lady, doing something that connects back to what she claims to want to be her image would at least give this a little bit more of a purpose and be more interesting to us. But no, it's the Meg, so we get these types of pictures. Here's another one, just plain and boring. And as you can see, even if she is wearing designer clothing here, or fancy things, we don't even get to see the clothes. This isn't about the clothes because the Meg cannot wear fancy clothes. Remember, she doesn't have the figure or the vibe to really carry cool fashions the way some of these ladies who get Harper's Bazaar photo shoots do. Like Cynthia Erivo just did a big cover story with Harper's Bazaar. Amazing looks, very cool styles, and felt very Cynthia at the same time. While there's no doubt these feel Meghan, it doesn't look good. Like, look at this one. This one's probably my least favorite because it's so funny. Look at how silly she looks. She has a mean girl face on, like wet. And she's got her sleeves pulled up over her hands. What? I'm a moody teenager. What? That's what she's doing here as she sits here in her fancy GMPs and her silly pointy shoes. The top and the trousers don't match in tone either, so that's a big mistake. The hair looks pretentious. The face looks like a petulant teenager. It's very unappealing. And this pose, okay, is teenage boy or young man, maybe even. The man spread and the slouch back in the chair, it's not giving, ooh, cool rebel Meghan, or whatever she thought it might give. It's the way men sit, with their legs spread apart, their knees spread apart. That's how dudes sit, okay? Come on, Meghan. It doesn't look good. Oh, this one might be worse. This one with the huge oversized trench coat, an ill-fitting skirt, and she is doing the Elaine and trying to laugh. Okay, we finally got a smile. It's terrible. Oh my God. Ugh. Nope. None of it's working. Okay, here's one full shot. Still, it's not really featuring the clothing or the fashion. It's basically the same as the other one. Expressionless, once again. Okay, so it's clearly either manic, aggressive laughter or the boring face, I guess. That's the only two vibes she has. Okay, they included a little 45-second behind the scenes. I'm sure it'll be just as cringy as all the rest. I see why they didn't do like an interview spot or something like that, like of her talking. It's just so, it's hard to like. Like, even just looking at it as objectively as possible, it's hard to like. Let's get into the actual article, though. Unfortunately, the title is basically the same as everything else she has done. Meghan's moment. We've already seen an article with the same exact title. After years of being subsumed by other people's narratives, the Duchess of Sussex, just Meghan is fine, is ready to author her own next chapter. Is she now? Because we have heard this so many times. We heard it in the Bloomberg interview. We heard it on the Jamie Kern-Lima podcast. We heard it in interviews before that countless times. Meghan is going to own her own story this time. This time is the one time that she's owning her own story. Not any of the other 12 times we heard her say this. No, it's this time. Oh. So it begins setting the scene at an event at the La Brea Tar Pits with a group of girls from a local STEM academy. It is completely unclear why Meghan is approaching this group of girls, if it's something that she paid for and organized, that Archewell funded, if it's something completely unrelated that Meghan was like, oh, I'll stop by and also I'll bring a journalist so that I get better press or something, or look like I'm doing something good. I don't know. There's no explanation. So I do not know the backstory. Forgive me. But a golf cart pulls up, the gravel crunching beneath its tires. The Duchess of Sussex, someone in the scrum announces. See, this is what I'm saying. She's making people announce her and using the title. That is super shady to me. She's not a royal highness anymore. There's no need to use her title. And she is functioning in America. She lives in America. She's doing all of her stuff in America. There is literally no grounds for this. It's kind of shocking to me. Meghan descends. Ah, yes, from way up here down to the plebs. This immediately is making Meghan sound super snooty. Dressed in wide leg trousers, what else? GMPs pulled up to the boobs, I bet. And it goes into Meghan rehashing how she used to live in LA. We know. We've heard it before. Isn't that funny that we've actually already heard these things before? Apparently, Meghan graciously asked one of the children about her nails. She asked another about what she's studying. When a girl mentions her love of languages, Meghan lights up. I'm learning French on Duolingo, she says proudly, adding that she just hit a 90-day streak. Neat. So the Meg is obsessed with talking about herself and taking over a child's opportunity to share, even with children, not just grown-ups. With children, too. She will hijack it. Then they launch into a brief backstory, as if we need to hear it again, of how she had the TIG, and then she met Harry while she was an actor on Suits, and then, voila, she was a royal. We know the story. We were here. Okay. And then they say that, I don't know if this is the author's interpretation of events or something Meghan said. It's unclear, but saying that in Megxit, throughout Megxit, Meghan lost her agency and her humanity. I don't think so. She followed Megxit up with multiple petulant statements to the media, arguing with the Queen of England. We could all lead a life of service, those types of things. Remember that? And then did the Oprah interview and signed all these deals with Netflix and Spotify and stuff. She did not lose any agency or humanity at all. None whatsoever. So I don't know what planet these people are on, but it's not realistic and it's manipulative to the facts. Meghan understands her voice better than any producer could put it out there, says Terry Wood, former executive VP at Harpo. Wood executive produced the Oprah interview with Meghan and Harry after they stepped back from the royal family and worked with Meghan on archetypes. She knows how she comes across and she knows how she wants to connect. She understands that so much has been written about her that when she does something, she wants to break through that noise so people see that she is authentically trying to be herself. Okay. Meghan doesn't actually understand how she comes across. Clearly. Obviously. If she did, she would stop sounding so pretentious all the time, and she would stop lecturing people, and she would stop sharing so much about herself, because there is nothing people want less than to hear more about Meghan as a human from Meghan. Because every time Meghan's talking about herself, she's conveying that that you need to see her exactly how she wants you to see her. Not that you can just make your own judgments, which is what we all do. And it's not natural to just take someone's word for it when they're like, no, I'm not here to do anything weird. Why do you want me to think that you're not here to do anything weird? You're probably trying to do something weird. It just automatically does that to us. So Meghan always trying to push this, I'm so authentic. I know, no. It's just making people think the opposite is true. So Meghan doesn't understand how she comes across at all. If she did, she would change how she presents herself and what she chooses to do and say in the public view. Then they talk about how she did sign deals with Spotify and Netflix, but neglect to highlight the fact that those have now ended. One of them under really bad terms. Then they go to the Polo Lounge at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Of course they did. They do point out that it is a calculated choice as the site for her first interview. There is a lot of fluff in this article to just fill it up and make it bigger, I guess. I don't know, but there's just tons of pointless fluff about where they are and the food and what things look like and oh my gosh, this and that, of just where they are or things like that have nothing to do with the Meg, which leads me to conclude that the writer understood that they were never going to get to their word count quota with just what Meghan divulged to her, which was the same stories that they have all heard before. So they had to fill it up with some other stuff. So they just filled it up with fluff about like the day and the environment and the setting, which is unimportant to an interview, quite frankly. But this paragraph I found particularly uncomfortable. How do powerful women flex? Do they lead with deference or dominance? Meghan seems to lead with affability. I'm not sure that that's exactly how people feel. The warmth with which she greets each of these men and with which they reciprocate is genuine. With me, her interviewer, where the power balance shifts back and forth, she is warm and open and she always maintains direct eye contact. Even though the Meg is a wealthy woman and married to a prince, I don't know that I would place her into the category of powerful women. Even though she weaseled her way into the Fortune interview, I have a video with the backstory on how she got there coming out soon, so be sure you subscribe so you do not miss it. I don't think the Meg should be placed into a category of powerful women, especially with how much she has failed to succeed. To me, a powerful woman is successful and inspiring and has a healthy, happy family around her that she manages to spend time with. That to me is a powerful woman because she is able to have balance between success and family and private life and public life and is inspiring just in general. I don't think I would attribute any of those things to Meghan. She talks about how she was a nerd and how her identity was wrapped up in being the smart one. We know, we've heard it, but also I think that was more just her narcissism as it began to bloom, thinking I want to be smarter than everyone else or I am smarter than everyone else. And that's where her narcissism was born. I don't think that she actually was. It's not like she was valedictorian. Meghan claims that she had the personality type of I can help coordinate, I can help organize, I can help facilitate. I think I'm probably the same now. That's just code for bossy. And, you know, a lot of us go through a bossy phase when we're children, but you are supposed to be coached out of being straight up bossy and into understanding what a leader is, which is not just bossing people around, it's connecting with them and also walking the walk so that then they will want to follow you naturally because they can see your success. Meghan does not have success. They bring up the dish soap story again. You see what I mean, you guys? This is all stuff that we've already heard about. They talk about the LA riots. Meghan says that it was cinematic in a way I don't think many people can understand. It was so visual, smoke everywhere, people driving around, blah, 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 blah. She's talking about stuff that she saw during the LA riots, which her father, who had custody of her at the time, says that they were out of town when the LA riots happened. And I think that they were saying Meghan, I think they're saying that Meghan was 11 when the LA riots happened. I'm sure you guys would dispute what age she was when the LA riots occurred. But she says it was scary, but Ellie survived it. It's resilient. And I'm still confused why Meghan's talking about it as if she was there when, according to the adults in her life at the time, she was not in town. So now we have a little bit of a backstory on how Meghan reconnected with Kelly Zafin, I think is how you pronounce her name. They met when they were in their 20s, but now they are have reconnected. In 2022, Meghan reached out after she found out that Kelly's son had passed away, which I could understand reaching out to an old acquaintance, someone you haven't spoken to in many years, during a tragic time to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear this. But at the same time, it feels a little uncomfortable and a little dark that Meghan used that as an opportunity to lure Kelly back into her life and present her as a long-term friend that she's had forever, because that's what benefits Meghan. That is the dark side that is possible. There's a possibility that is what was going through Meghan's mind, as horrible as that is to think or say. My heart goes out to Kelly for what she has had to go through. But I didn't realize that they hadn't spoken, that Meghan reconnected with Kelly when Kelly's son passed away. Some people could view that as Meghan being opportunistic and perhaps even a little bit manipulative to swoop in during someone's tragic time and benefit from the appearance of having a long-term friend when they hadn't spoken in many, many years. And that's what communal narcissists are like, and what a lot of people think Meghan and Harry kind of show tendencies of that at times. Then they talk about women seeking self-actualization through work. Meghan talks about how she likes the community of work and connection. Meghan says you should do what works for you. Well, unfortunately, most people don't have the luxury of doing what works for them. They have to find a job and work really, really hard to be able to keep their lives afloat and their family afloat. When people start to see your work ethic and really understand how dedicated you are to things, how you are in one place, I believe, is how you are in other places. So for me, that's how I show up when I do potlucks at my kids' school. That's how I show up when putting a party together for my friend who just had a baby. That's how I show up in my business. So Meghan's just talking about herself again and how excellently she shows up. That's for other people to say about you, Meghan, not for you to say about yourself. And it doesn't really tell us much about her work ethic. Ultimately, this also feels like it falls into the category of communal narcissism, of I want to be seen this way. So I go an extra mile when I put together a party or show up at my kid's school or at work. I'm showing up in a specific way so that then I will achieve praise and adoration and status in these groups and in these spaces, and show everybody how much harder I worked on this thing. It's not about that being natural or just wanting to contribute from a genuine place. It's about wanting credit. That's how that reads to me. When they talk about fear of failure or what Meghan has learned from her mistakes, she deadpans. You learn not to do it again. Then she clarifies, if it all goes swimmingly, you don't learn from it. If you don't learn anything, you're not going to grow. I'm a mom with kids at that age where they are constantly learning something new. I can give myself the same grace as a founder. There's no such thing as perfect. I too get to make mistakes. There's also not a lot of fun in trying to be perfect, so why try to do that if you want to have fun? She didn't really answer the question. What have you learned from your mistakes? Has not been answered. Meghan completely deflects, besides saying you learn not to do it again, but not Meghan. Meghan repeats her mistakes a lot, and then she talks about, in general, learning from mistakes, what that means, and gives examples of that with children and stuff, and just talks about, oh yeah, learning in mistakes as a general talking point. She doesn't actually say that what she has learned from her mistakes specifically. A huge missed opportunity. Meghan would show a lot of humility and make herself more likable to actually acknowledge some specific mistakes and some things that she has learned. Even if it was, I learned to be more careful about what I say about people and about family members, because the Oprah interview, that was a mistake, okay? Meghan is wishful thinking that Meghan would ever say the Oprah interview was a mistake, but she needs to say what she learned from her mistakes, not just deflect. So this interviewer talked with Serena and Kelly Zafin. Convenient for Meghan to offer up those two specific associates, people who we already know are currently close with Meghan Markle. Meghan has worked really, really hard to bolster those two friendships. Meghan then says, I don't like things that feel overly realized. If you overwork the dough, it's not going to rise. And sometimes I think the stress that people put on moments, they're so consumed in them that you lose the fun of why you're doing something. Okay, I mean, like, that's a fair point. But one of the complaints about Meghan's products and projects is that they are overworked. And even just these pictures and Meghan's posing in these pictures. Meghan in general feels overworked, overthought, and like she's trying too hard. That's how it always feels with Meghan. I ask her if she ever feels the need to compartmentalize the parts of her life, work, and family. And she talks about how her office is right by the kitchen, and she repeats the soundbite of Lily will come and sit on her lap, whether it's about P&L for my brand or about something creative. Meghan is just saying the exact same thing she said before. It makes me not believe it, quite frankly. Be like, this is the story that I'm going to say a few times because I've said it before, so I can repeat this one story. Oh, because that makes it feel not genuine. If you don't have any fresh anecdotes, then it doesn't feel genuine. When I ask what she hopes her kids see when they see her working, she says, I hope they see the value of being brave. They saw it when it was just jam in a pot on the stove bubbling. Well, I guess that was liquid spread, not jam. I don't think having a Netflix series fail and pushing loose spread onto the plebs that they don't want is being brave. Maybe like work ethic or the value of following a passion, if that really is her passion, might have been a better answer here. Then they meet up again a week later in New York on the same day that she did the Project Healthy Minds gala. And they are in a grand brownstone on the Upper East Side that belongs to one of Meghan's friends. The speculation is that it is Blake Lively's place. And that would not be a good association for them to have. But apparently Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have really good security and they live in New York City. So puzzle pieces. I don't know. I understand the speculation here that it might be Blake's house. And the fact that Meghan doesn't want to divulge whose house it is makes it all the more obvious that one of these parties, either Blake or the Meg, doesn't want to be associated with the other because both of them currently have trash reputations. But once again, somebody announces the Meg's title as she enters. Her version of events has now been shared because Pier Paolo gave away his side of the story after Paris Fashion Week. So now the Meg is giving her side. She says that we've known each other for years. He said they've just been texting for a while, which was said in a way that made it sound like Meg texts him. And she says, I was excited for him. I reached out and I said, happy to come and support you. We kept it a secret and it was really fun. So she's trying to save face a little bit and be like, I didn't specifically ask. I said, I'm happy to support you. That doesn't mean she didn't ask beforehand. Pier Paolo made it clear that Meghan asked to come. And there's that word again. I guess fun is what they mean. I love being able to do both, Meghan says, to play in the sandbox with my kids and play in the front row at a fashion show. She wasn't playing in the front row of a fashion show. She was sitting there watching the fashion. And remember, fashion is not funny. And the Meg laughing at the model that fell was super gross. So this was a tacky thing to say, tasteless thing to say. I think the moment you start making all your personal decisions based on external judgment, you lose your authenticity. You would, yes, but also if you're constantly conniving and everything is contrived and manipulated because you're trying to make it seem a certain way, then you're also losing your authenticity to Meg. I hate to break it to you. Meghan says, I think my boundaries became stronger once I came into the public eye. You find different ways to protect yourself, whether that's self-preservation or it's just growing up. Okay, calm down. The Meg could very easily have protected herself by just learning and accepting more help when she did come into the public eye, as she got with Harry. She could have accepted more help and learned more and educated herself more and took it a little slower, but she chose not to. So, I mean, like, own your mistakes. Take things a little slower. This is another paragraph that I found very, very strange. She puts her hand on her heart when she talks about her husband. He loves me so boldly, fully, and he also has a different perspective because he sees media that I wouldn't. No one in the world loves me more than him, so I know he's going to make sure that he has my back. But to not say that she loves him feels weird. This is like the second or third time that she has told us how much Harry loves her. To me, that's not a natural way of talking about your significant other. It's about how much you love them. It's for them to say how much they love you. She could have said, like, he's protective of me and we love each other so much. His playfulness drew me to him and it brought it out in me. And, you know, we have a great balance in our relationship or something like that. But to just go on about how much he loves her. And then this phrase here, he also has a different perspective because he sees media that I wouldn't. What is that supposed to mean? That Harry, is she outing Harry as looking at media that she doesn't? Is Harry the one who scrolls obsessively? I think they both do. That's what I think. Then we have more nonsense, more boring nonsense about Meghan saying that she was an old soul when she was a child and talking about things from childhood like what she would eat for breakfast and lunch. Why? Who cares? Why waste your time like this? It makes me feel that like Meghan is given these opportunities and this potential is there to actually be interesting, to show your actual personality or talk about the cause-driven work that you claim to care about so much, to offer some degree of like education or inspiration. But instead, we're talking about sandwiches for lunch and being an old soul and repeating stories that we've heard 5 times. Why waste your opportunities and potential? Why? Why is Meghan wasting it? Why is she so self-sabotaging? I really feel that it's because each time she does an interview or a podcast, it gets backlash, it gets criticized, people don't like it, it gets disliked and things like that. And then she sees that and she sees all the negative comments and she thinks in her mind, if I could just do another interview and do it perfectly, I will do it this way. And I'm going to drive home these points and I'm going to retell these stories in this manner, in this new format. And then it will be perfectly how I wanted it to be, because this Jamie Kern Lima podcast didn't give me exactly what I wanted. It wasn't the result I wanted. So I'm going to do the same thing again and try to get a new outcome. It's insanity. But that's what I think is going on here. That's why she's stuck in this loop, because she wants to be seen this way. And to her, she is perfect. And the way that she conveys her story is perfect. Why wouldn't it get a positive reaction? And each time it gets a negative reaction, it makes her want a do-over. And that's why we have so much repetition. That's just my theory. She says that her parenting style is very different from her mother's. She has made it a study using books and apps and diligence that made her an authority within her friend circle. I'm assuming she means about parenting. Serena Williams is talking about how Meghan is teaching her more about parenting, I guess. I think it's always helpful to educate as a parent. I try to do the same. I think that's very helpful. But I don't think it necessarily comes through quite right here. I think it would have been better if Meghan said that her parenting style is different from her mother's and she relies on educating herself on parenting so that she can try to be a good parent, rather than this perspective of she's telling other people about what she learned and influencing them on how they should parent, because that can kind of come off like telling people unsolicited parenting advice, which nobody takes very well. Not that that's what's exactly happening here between her and Serena, but it can come across that way. And once again, this circles back to, with PR, you do have to pay attention to and be careful with how it's going to come across. She says that she spent a lot of time in Pasadena and Altadena, and she talks about her and Harry's terrible decision to go and tour, and she is fluffing herself up here. She says, it was less about just giving someone a handout, but giving it to them with dignity. Can you treat it with the same level of care that you would if you had lost everything? She's trying to make herself sound holier than thou here. The fact that Harry and Meghan didn't actually do anything to help these communities, they didn't donate or help people rebuild their homes or sponsor a handful of people rebuilding their homes or anything of the sort. They just came and did that stupid publicity stunt and pretended to volunteer for a little while, and it got backlash, rightly so. What the hell are Harry and Meghan doing walking over people's burned down homes and property? It was gross. And on top of it, they didn't actually do anything except for Meghan asked her agent to ask Billie Eilish's agent for some merch for somebody. That's all they did. So if she had like helped or sponsored some houses to get rebuilt or something like that, or helped some families, or just like donated a significant amount of money to the recovery efforts, then maybe she would have earned the right to say something like this, but she hasn't. So it just makes it seem pretentious. Then she name drops Gloria Steinem. They point that Meghan seems to enjoy the global celebrity that she is now, thinks she's part of, at least. So when you contrast this with, for example, Cynthia Erivo's cover story here, the pictures are a lot more interesting. They're a lot more playful. They have so much personality. You would not be mistaken about who Cynthia Erivo is as a human being and the playfulness that she has about her looking at these photographs. You would not be mistaken. It's so clear who Cynthia Erivo is. And in these pictures, it just comes through. And her interview is because Wicked is coming to a close. The second one is out. But it's so much more interesting. It pops so much more. And it makes so much more sense for Cynthia to have this interview. The Meg's is boring and bland and has nothing interesting. And it's not even anchored by something big in culture right now with the big project like the Wicked thing. So it was just pointless, repetitive, and nonsensical. It wasn't worth our time, was it? But I hope this video was interesting. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for joining me today. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you next time. Have a happy day, everybody. Bye.